You paid $50 for that apple tree at the nursery. It gave you 20 pounds of fruit in the first real harvest. And then year after year, it produced less while growing bigger. Until one winter, heavy snow split the main scaffold right down the middle. The tree is firewood now. And the reason is not bad luck or poor genetics. The reason is that nobody taught you the one skill that separates a tree that feeds your family for 30 years from a tree that dies after 5. That skill is winter pruning. If you do not prune these 8 fruit trees in January using the method that works with how trees actually allocate energy, you will spend the next decade buying fruit at the supermarket while your backyard is full of massive unproductive trees. This is not about making your tree look pretty. This is about understanding the biology of how a fruit tree chooses between growth and fruiting. These 8 trees fall into 3 categories that require different approaches. Pome fruits like apples and pears that respond well to pyramid pruning. Stone fruits like plums, cherries, peaches, and apricots that need wound protection. And special cases like quinces and figs that require minimal intervention. The timing is identical for all of them. Late winter when temperatures stay above 20 degrees Fahrenheit and before buds swell. Here is what kills most backyard fruit trees. Pruning too early when it is below 20 degrees causes wounds that never heal properly and the branch dies back. The cambium layer freezes before it can seal the cut and pathogens enter through the exposed wood. Pruning too late after buds have swollen removes all the fruiting wood because those swollen buds are where your apples and pears would have formed, and you get no crop that year. Pruning too heavily on mature trees forces vigorous vegetative growth instead of fruit production because you trigger the tree's survival response to replace lost canopy. Not pruning at all creates crowded centers that trap moisture and encourage fungal diseases like fire blight and brown rot, while producing fruit only at the tops of tall branches you cannot reach without a ladder. And pruning in summer when you should be doing it in winter, or winter pruning when you should be doing it in summer, because most people do not understand that these 2 types of pruning have completely opposite effects on the tree's hormonal balance. First law of fruit tree pruning. Winter pruning encourages growth. The more you cut in winter, the faster the tree grows the following spring because you remove apical dominance and force dormant buds to break. Second law. Summer pruning encourages fruiting. Shortening shoots in late summer redirects energy from wood production into forming fruiting spurs because the tree cannot replace that growth before dormancy. Third law. A tree in nature prioritizes growth and survival over reproduction. Your job as a gardener is to constantly redirect that energy away from making wood and into making fruit. These 3 laws explain why pruning works and why timing matters more than technique. A wild apple tree in a forest produces maybe 50 apples per year scattered across 30 feet of branches you cannot reach. The fruit is small, often diseased, and mostly inedible. A properly pruned apple tree in a backyard produces 200 apples per year on branches you can pick from the ground. The fruit is twice the size with better color and sugar content. The only difference between these 2 trees is that one was pruned in late winter every year using a method that redirects the tree's energy from making wood into making fruit. This is the fundamental insight that changed fruit production 500 years ago. Trees do not want to make fruit for you. They want to grow tall and compete for sunlight with neighboring trees. Pruning is how you change what the tree wants by manipulating its hormonal signals. Tree 1 is the apple. Start by cutting out any dead or diseased branches flush at the joints where they meet the main scaffold. Use sharp bypass pruners for branches under 3/4 of an inch and a pruning saw for anything larger. Then cut out any branches pointing inward toward the middle of the tree because these will never get enough light to produce quality fruit, and they create crowded centers that trap moisture and block air circulation. After removing dead wood and inward branches, shape the scaffold into a pyramid or Christmas tree shape by pruning each leader back to an outward-pointing bud. This pyramid form maximizes light exposure to every branch. Always cut 1/4 inch above a bud that points in the direction you want new growth to go. The new shoot will grow in that direction because auxins concentrate at the highest remaining bud. Tree 2 is the pear. Pears are pruned almost exactly like apples using the same pyramid scaffold structure. But pear trees grow more vigorously than apples, which means they put even more energy into making vertical shoots called water sprouts. Be more aggressive with winter pruning in the first 4 years to establish the scaffold shape and remove water sprouts completely because they will never fruit. Then once the tree reaches adult size after about 4 years, restrict winter pruning to a minimum and rely on summer pruning to encourage fruiting. Heavy winter pruning on a mature pear creates an endless cycle of vegetative growth with no fruit. Trees 3 and 4 are plums and cherries. These are stone fruits, which means they have pits instead of cores and different pruning requirements. Stone fruits are susceptible to silver leaf disease and bacterial canker that enters through pruning cuts during wet weather. Prune in late winter, but paint the wounds immediately with tree paint or oil-based paint to seal against infection. Some growers use white latex paint, which works equally well. Remove suckers that spring from the base or rootstock every winter because they never bear fruit and they steal energy from the productive scaffold. With cherries, focus on keeping the tree short by cutting back main leaders every year to maintain 12 to 15 feet height. A cherry tree allowed to grow naturally will reach 30 feet within 10 years, and you will need scaffolding to harvest the top third. Trees 5 and 6 are peaches and apricots. Prune these into an open-centered goblet shape rather than a pyramid because they need maximum sunlight on every branch to ripen fruit properly. Remove the central leader entirely in year 2 and encourage 3 or 4 main scaffold branches to spread outward at wide angles. Prune laterals back to about 6 inches every winter to encourage fruiting spurs along the main branches. Be aggressive about removing any branches showing disease signs like gumming or cankers, because apricots are prone to bacterial canker that can kill entire scaffolds within 2 seasons. Peaches fruit on previous years' wood, so you must maintain a constant supply of new growth while removing older exhausted wood. Trees 7 and 8 are quinces and figs. Quinces are pruned like apples using pyramid scaffold but require very light pruning because they produce fruit on tips of previous year's growth. Cut those tips and you remove the flower buds. Mostly just remove dead wood and maintain pyramid form without shortening healthy branches. Figs produce on new wood in most climates, so prune to remove dead branches and maintain desired size, but avoid heavy pruning that removes too much new growth where the fruit forms. In cold climates, figs may die back to the ground each winter and regrow from the roots, which actually creates a self-pruning cycle. In year 5 after you establish the scaffold and switch to the summer pruning system, your apple tree that produced 20 pounds in year 2 now produces 60 pounds. Your pear tree goes from 15 pounds to 45. Your plum tree goes from 10 pounds to 30. And you achieve this without buying synthetic fertilizers or chemical sprays or expensive grafting tools. Just by understanding the biology of how fruit trees allocate energy between vegetative growth and reproductive growth, and using pruning to redirect that energy from wood into fruit. A tree that is well pruned does not need you every year, produces on its own, stays healthy, carries its fruit without breaking. But a tree that is poorly pruned or never pruned will punish you forever. It will grow too big to manage. It will produce too little fruit to justify the space it occupies. And eventually it will split under its own weight during an ice storm, and you will lose decades of potential harvest in a single winter night. You are not just pruning for next summer. You are building a legacy that outlives you. Imagine your tree 5 years from now. The scaffold is strong with short branches that angle upward at 45 degrees for maximum strength. The branches are loaded with fruit in clusters you can reach from the ground without a ladder. You are picking 60 pounds of apples in August and September. The fruit is larger and higher quality because the tree put its energy into fewer bigger fruits instead of many small ones scattered across overgrown branches 30 feet up. There is no ladder leaning against the trunk. No broken limbs from last winter's ice storm. No fungal disease because the open center allows air to circulate and leaves dry quickly after rain. Just a productive tree that feeds your family year after year with minimal maintenance beyond annual pruning. This is what proper pruning creates. And the difference between this vision and the reality most backyard trees become is what you do in January and August every single year for the life of the tree. The timing is critical and non-negotiable. The only time to do heavy structural pruning is late winter when temperature is above 20 degrees Fahrenheit and the tree is dormant with no active sap flow. Shape in winter, force fruit in summer. 8 fruit trees. Winter pruning in January to establish scaffold and remove dead wood. Summer pruning in August to shorten growth and encourage fruiting spurs. And the result is that you triple your harvest from trees that will feed your family for decades and increase property value with productive landscaping that actually serves a purpose beyond decoration.